Next in our program is a panel on unlocking the potential of AI. Please welcome our panelists and moderator Peter Chandler, Vice President of Federal Policy from TechNet.
Great. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. That was fascinating. I learned a lot from that. Although I would dispute one thing. I took calculus my senior year in high school, and I thought it was really hard. I'm TechNet's Vice President of Federal Policy and Government Relations. Again, thank you for joining us today for our AI for Good event. For our first panel today, Unlocking the Benefits of AI, we are joined by 6 TechNet member companies that work across the industries of education, hiring, financial software, online marketplaces, identity verification, and real estate. We're excited to showcase just a few examples of how AI is being deployed for good. To begin, I'd like to welcome our 6 panelists and ask each of them to introduce themselves and their member companies. Let's begin with Chris McNeilly.
Hi, I'm Chris from Chegg, and Chegg is a educational technology company focusing on saving students time and money and making them smarter. And we started off by renting textbooks, and now we serve over 8 million students with digital educational services. We believe students should have every opportunity to succeed in school and achieve their career aspirations. And we think that with generative AI and technologies today, we can empower students to learn more efficiently and more effectively. In fact, in April of this year, we launched a AI-powered student learning service with the help of OpenAI and GPT-4. And we're hoping that by expanding this conversational learning platform and companion, that we'll be able to take students the next step in their journey. Thank you. Great.
Next, Nathan Mondragon.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm the Chief IL Psychologist with a company called HireVue, and HireVue is an organization that works in the HR technology space, predominantly providing technology to unlock opportunities for individuals to identify and achieve their career potential and whatever job it is that they want in their career aspirations, sort of thing. So my team specifically at HireVue, a team of psychologists and data scientists, et cetera, the science team at HireVue works to use AI in a variety of different methods that we'll talk about a little bit later to facilitate that hiring process and identifying the best match and potential of individuals for whatever job it is that they're interested in achieving and obtaining.
Great. Alon, Amit.
Hi, thanks for having me here. I'm with Intuit, the financial software company you may be familiar with. We are supporting individuals as in their financial lives through products such as Credit Karma and TurboTax, and small businesses with QuickBooks and MailChimp. Our mission is to power prosperity around the world. And I lead product for AI at Intuit. I spent some years at Google and Facebook as well doing AI, even to the left of the slides that you had there, like prehistory. So that's on the personal note. Thank you.
Great. Next, Masumi Nakamura.
Hi, Masumi Nakamura. I'm VP of Engineering over at Mercari. Mercari is well within the sustainable, secondhand marketplace, very much where we're interested in making everything that anyone sees or has as something that someone could sell or buy secondhand. Very much a lot of what we're very interested in is furthering using technology as a platform to both create that means by which physical items can be translated into this digital item world and then translated back through transaction. A lot of the AI that we've been doing have been around very much what you would expect. Recommendations, trying to get people to create descriptions around the information of the item in an easy and understandable way. Most recently, we did a Merchat interface where we, working with ChatGPT, we made it very easy for people to interface and get our items in a conversational way. So very much interested into where this is all going to go.
Thank you. Katia Mar.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Katia Mar, and I'm here representing the fraud protection industry. I've been very lucky to have spent my career in cybersecurity space. I've worked for a variety of startups in Silicon Valley and outside of it, solving different problems with AI and disrupting markets such as finance, healthcare, life sciences, and real estate and e-commerce as well. And today I'm working with this wonderful company called Onfido. It's a UK-based company, but a global big company that exists in digital identity, remote identity verification space. And as everything has moved online, so has fraud. So we exist at this very interesting intersection of human expectation for instant gratification when they want to open a financial banking account or get into a gaming site just at the time of the big game, or they want to rent a car seamlessly, or before that, when arriving at the airport or departing for the flight, wanting to go through the security without being bothered. So on one hand, you have that desire. On the other hand, you need to be sure that the people doing that are who they say they are, to both protect the individuals with identities as well as the companies that are servicing them. And that's where Onfido is in this intersection. And we have really cool AI that helps solve this problem.
Thank you. And last but not least, Farah Akoum.
Hi, everyone. I'm Farah Akoum. I'm Senior Director of Product Management at Zillow. I have 15 plus years of experience in the AI field. Worked on different applications, machine translation, risk, identity, conversational AI. And at Zillow, we're focusing on how we can use AI to basically make home a reality, whether people are here to rent or buy or finance or sell. Since 2006, actually, since inception of Zillow, we started with the Z estimate. So this is basically a machine learning algorithm to predict the home value. And so you can imagine how this has democratized access to a key part and information of people's welfare, and also reduced barrier and bias towards things where it was mostly related to people, and now it's based on objective data. And since then, we continued using AI. You can see it today on our app. We're the first real estate app using natural language search. So that people can say two-bedroom apartment, with an open concept kitchen, etc., to make it more efficient. And during COVID, people were flooding on Zillow because we have, virtual tours, which are computer-based algorithm based on, photos, where people can have a deeper sense of a home. And this is how AI can help you make better decision in a much more safe and equitable way. So I'm really excited to be with you today to talk about real estate, AI, and also some of the guardrails there.
Great, fantastic. Thank you, everyone. These are just 6 of our member companies. We have nearly 100 at TechNet, and virtually every one of them is using AI in many of the ways that you've heard from already today. Let's go to Alon of Intuit for our first question. I do just quickly want to take a point of privilege. Thank you, Intuit, for getting me the first federal tax refund since leaving Capitol Hill 4 years ago. I really appreciated the help. Alon, can you tell us a bit about what AI means to you and your industry, and provide one example of how your customers benefit from this technology?
Sure, and you're welcome. If you look us up in your favorite search engine, you'll find that Intuit is an AI-driven expert platform, and that those are not just words. We've been using AI for years now to help people prosper. There's hundreds of things you could do with AI to make this better. I'll mention 2. A quick one is people have to import lots of documents, your W-2s and 1099s. And Doug mentioned the ability to parse documents and understand what's written on them. Not easy. We've been doing this with AI, now with generative AI at Intuit for a long time. Another example is cash flow prediction. You're a small business. We know your transactions. We know your. We can see your business numbers, and we can help you predict your cash flow, where things are going, and make you help you make better decisions. Those are like 2 out of 100 examples of the way AI is used today at Intuit.
Great. If you can figure out how it can help me lose weight, let me know. All right. I'd like to give everyone on the panel the opportunity to answer the second part of that question if you'd like to. Give us one benefit your customers are receiving from AI technology.
Maybe I can start. So this year, as I mentioned, we launched natural language search, and it was very much covered during the presentation of Google, how large language models are changing the behaviors of people. What we heard from customers is when they're looking for a home, they're looking at a lifestyle. So it's a long list of wish, open concept, yard, etc. And 60% of the people, they start their search online, set their budget online without even talking to someone. So before, we only had restricted filters, number of bedroom, number of bathrooms. And now with the new large language models, including BERT, one of the models from Google and others, we are able to basically provide a way for people to express themselves naturally, like they're talking to an agent or a friend, and say, I want a home that has a big backyard, etc. We've seen a lot of engagement. 40% of people are using it, and more people are talking to lenders and agents. So we know we're basically doing the right thing for them.
Great. Chris from Chegg?
Yeah, I think this goes back to Doug's presentation, but our students don't know how to talk about the course they're trying to learn. Right, and so if there's kind of a translation problem, and maybe this is the challenge you had in calculus, you don't know how to talk about calculus until you learn calculus. And so being able to chat to an AI and use the words that you're familiar with in the way you want to ask the question, and then have it be able to translate and then explain it to you in the language that you understand, and extend that across the semester so that it gets more sophisticated as you grow and learn the language of the course, we think is going to be very powerful for our students.
Great. Nathan?
Yeah, so after they go to school and before they can buy a house, they have to get a job. Right? So one of the things that we do is we help facilitate human decisions in using AI in the hiring process. So some of the outcomes that we've had are certainly efficiency outcomes, like one company went from a 4-week hiring process to 4 days by using the AI. So people are getting jobs quicker, et cetera. Outcomes for the individuals, though, we're seeing diversity improvement. One company had a 16% improvement in the number of diversity hires that they were making because you have less biased AI driving and helping the human decisions and taking the bias out of the human decision-making process. And then other performance outcomes. People get the right job with the right fit. They perform better. They stay longer. There's less turnover, but they promote quicker, et cetera. So, and then they can go buy a house. Thanks.
Great. Katia or Masumi, anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I can take the security angle to that. So one of the examples that I've given earlier where my company can help is, think back a couple years ago when the pandemic started and we were all confined into our apartments. The life kept going on, right? We still needed to pay the bills. We were looking for entertainment, perhaps more digital entertainment, and continuing to interact with each other, but it's just things were online now. And so more so than even before, and now it's kind of progressing. But if you think about your financial life, if you wanted to open up a banking account, you no longer could or wanted or had to go to a branch, so you had to do it remotely, and a lot of financial institutions enabled that. And so the process goes as they will ask you to present a document, an ID or a passport, and take a picture of that in front of the screen, doing it with your phone, and then after that, take a picture or a quick video of your biometrics, your face usually, and then match that biometrics to a tiny, teeny picture, pixelated picture on the document to be sure that they belong to the same person. It's the face matching. And so how can you do that in a remote environment without deploying the AI tool, so machine learning? It's pretty much impossible, or it would take a ton of time to send this information to some remote analyst who can try to visually make an assessment where things match up, and the security and the assurance of that type of approach is not as high as it would be with AI. So in our case, in enabling our remote lives, our digital lives, AI is certainly extremely helpful.
Yeah, I'll actually add to the security and safety arena. It is one of obviously one of the big areas that everyone needs to contend around, and especially in commerce, everything from fraud to whether something's counterfeit or not. So the use of AI we do is we attempt to detect whether or not something is truly what a person has described, or is something that the individual has over time proven that they are actually a good lister and seller. So use of AI allows us to ensure that our consumer base feels safe when they do these transactions. So.
Great. Let's dig in a little bit now on some of these issues. I want to go next to Farah at Zillow. How is your company thinking about and implementing responsible AI practices?
Great question. We at Zillow are very much committed towards responsible AI because we do believe there's a right for people to have accessible and equitable home ownership and access to home. So we do this with the principle of safety, fairness related to fair housing rules, as well as transparency. So I'm going to be a little bit more crisp and give some example here in the interest of sharing. When it comes to safety, we never use private information when training our models. We follow private regulations, law regulation in every state. Also, we make sure that the data that we feed to the models are objective data that are also vetted by our analysts, where we basically look at the data and see if it's correlated to any bias, etc., before feeding the model. So it's not like we're training the model on all the internet, garbage in, garbage out, and we have a little bit more control. When it comes to fairness, again, we're part of the Fair Housing Rule and all of that. We have an interdisciplinary AI ethic group from legal, scientists, etc. And so what we do is basically, first of all, make sure we have a crisp idea what type of data we use or don't. For instance, we don't use safety or crime data because we know it's correlated to some sort of discrimination. While we do show users school rating is linked to some biases, so we don't feed it to the model. And it's a job that this interdisciplinary group came together and done. And so they do the audits and the vetting before we launch our models for home recommendations and all of that, or even the Z estimate. And finally, for transparency, our users have to consent when we're using their data, behavioral one, etc., even for the purpose of personalization, so that we can tell them why and when they're using their data. And I hope also other companies do the same. We even use transparency when we're trying to define the problem we're trying to solve. So this, recently we've done a user research where we basically ask users, where do you want to have AI, generative AI, help you during the task versus a human being? So we're basically going to the areas where people want more trust versus wants a human being, and then we basically do this in a very much customer-centric way. And of course, we share our learnings through blogs, coming to these forums, and all of that.
Great, thank you. I'd like to ask the same question of you, Alon, at Intuit.
Sure. Farah touched on many very, very important points. Transparency, privacy, not training the models with private data, having a governance committee watch over, before you launch anything, it gets reviewed. We have a responsible AI process that looks at privacy, transparency, fairness, accuracy, many other aspects of each model. I want to touch on a couple of other things. Inside of Intuit, any developer today has access to something called Gen Studio, which is an environment to develop generative AI models with all the benefits that folks have spoken about, and I can mention a few more. You don't get to do that without doing training. Like literally on the screen in front of you, you don't get to log into the tool without checking a box that you've gone through a responsible AI training, so that every developer, thousands of developers across the company, have gone through that same training. So it's not only the system that enforces it, but people know. People know what they're supposed to achieve, what they're supposed to do with all the dimensions that were mentioned here, which are very, very important. So just to give one example, generative AI today, for small business, email is key to keep in touch with the customers and to grow. Writing the content for email marketing takes thousands of hours per year, and a small business owner is not necessarily a marketing person. They don't enjoy doing this. We just recently launched to MailChimp the ability to write email marketing content for you and just literally say, I need a promotion next week for this category of products. The email just gets written. You can edit it. So that's just an example of the thing that people do with generative AI, but they do it within this framework of responsible AI with a very diverse committee of governance and this responsible AI review before anything gets launched.
Great, thank you. To go a little bit further on this, we've heard how we're implementing responsible AI practices. And I'll turn to you, Nathan, for this first. Behind all of this technology are humans, right? What are some ways that AI can be used to address or improve issues in human decision making?
Yeah, thank you. The best way, in our opinion, is to mimic human decision making, but you have to remove the bias out of the decision making to build your data set so you don't have a biased data set. So there's training applications that are used in our field when we're trying to collect human data to then build algorithms upon that data or based upon that data. You need to get the bias out of that data. So we run the human raters through various training programs, et cetera, so that they can evaluate. Let's say we're evaluating an interview response. They can evaluate that interview response for fit for a job in an unbiased manner, and then you build the algorithms based upon that. But we've also extended that even further and looked at different methodologies. So the field of IO psychology has a long history of measuring discrimination and bias in various talent tools like hiring. So we use those statistical methods and have expanded upon those to actually look at ways of removing the bias out of an algorithm. If you have enough data, you can do that without losing the prediction of what you're trying to predict, whether it's a job fit, success in a job, some personality measure, whatever it might be. So our approach is design the algorithms you have less biased data if you can, as much as possible. If you can't, then design methods to remove the bias out of the ultimate algorithm that gets built, so you minimize that bias, and then countermeasure that against human decisions on similar data sets without the assistance of AI, and you can start to look at what are those differences in discrimination as the last step, and then publish those results, right? So we've gone a long way of trying to publish in academic journals, peer-reviewed journals, et cetera, and books around the methodology and the design principles behind this.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go next to Masumi and then Chris.
Once again, I mean, Nathan's spoken quite a bit on where it ought to be going. For us, the other thing I'd like to add is to the point that everyone's making around data. Data, the input, the output, really the input matters most, and how we humans ingest it needs to also be mimicked and properly mimicked within the AI system. For over in the e-commerce side that we do, one of the other areas that we really want to pay attention to is how the AI begins to show us stuff that we never thought was possible in ways that both delight us, but also keeps us very safe. That arena is something that we're very much dedicated to doing and implementing both the tools, the processes in play.
Chris?
Yeah, I think accuracy and completeness is always the highest priority for Chegg in our answers, and so mostly STEM, calculus, physics, electrical engineering. Those are the subjects that AI models aren't that great on, but they'll sound confident, right? They'll sound like that's the right answer, even when it's not. And so our platform takes our 150,000 experts that are on staff, have them answer questions manually, continue to do that process, but then also QC, quality control, manual answers plus the AI answers. And then that data feeds back into the model to improve the results going forward. And so we've spent the last 8 to 10 years perfecting this manual review process, and it just flows naturally into our AI training and the improvement of our models. Because again, our students don't know whether the answer is right or not. They depend on Chegg to tell them that this is the right answer.
Great, thank you, Chris. Just a little advocacy point here for what you mentioned and for all of this technology your companies are using. This is why we work so hard with policymakers to try and increase investments in STEM education and also change some of our immigration policies to attract the best and brightest to America, because we need people implementing this technology. I'm going to go next to Katia. And it's a similar question, but you do so much with the digital verification. How do you make sure that the AI isn't actually exacerbating exacerbating biased outcomes?
It's absolutely a great question. I want to start by reflecting on what Masumi has just mentioned about some of the benefits of AI. Of the way we use AI, this is a fraud protection, right? And there is a gazillion of fraud vectors that we're aware of, so we can just do a somewhat simpler matching to what we already know. But there's also so much cybercrime and so much fraud that's happening that we don't yet know about. So how do we protect the companies from breaches? How do we protect individuals from their personal information being stolen? This is where AI can be extremely helpful, because when trained properly, it can predict the future types of fraud. It can prevent those attacks from happening as they happen, instead of us having to deal with the damage of that. So the benefits are quite clear. At the same time, going back into the bias conversation, thinking about the digital identity verification, or identity verification in general, right? When a clerk in a bank is verifying your identity and potentially could be a biased human individual, as we all are by design, there is some kind of bias that exists within all of us. That individual can impact one life at a time. When we're thinking about AI, an automated way of verifying identities, the machine, if biased, it can impact the lives of tens of thousands of people or more. So it's extremely important for us, for the companies providing the services, for us companies that provide the service of fraud protection, to take in that concept and develop the machine learning models, develop the systems that keep the bias in mind. In fact, all the models that we develop, we sort of assume that at first that they are all biased and work backwards off of that. Specifically at Onfido, when we're talking about identity verification, a part of that is verification of your biometrics, which is kind of where the bias can flourish potentially. And so there you have age, gender, ethnicity, and also accessibility limitations. So a lot of times, the bias in machine learning models, in artificial intelligence, comes from insufficient diversity and variety in data sets. And so if you're only working off of the previously captured data, then likely you will not have the good balance, especially if you're like Onfido, a global company where we operate in with data from more than 195 countries, individuals coming from those countries. How do we ensure that everybody is treated equally and is given access to the resources that they're trying to access? And so this is where actually the generative AI can be extremely helpful to us, because if we are aware which data sets are missing, lacking the data, then we can help AI create those biometrics to supplement our data sets, and we now can train our models based on much richer sets of data and hopefully be less biased, to eliminate bias. Another point I want to make is it's what I strive, and our company is very good at that, because we're very extremely open about measuring bias in our own systems. We constantly publish how we perform, how we improve, or how we decline. Last year we released a really cool AI bias white paper that could be helpful even for consumer, just to read how that stuff is done. So we stay at the forefront of that. But the transparency about how our data is processed in everyday life is something that we as consumers should be demanding of the companies that we interact with. AI has sometimes a bad rap because it's perceived as a black box. Well, AI bias is even more scary in that concept. So the transparency behind the processes that the companies deploy to address AI bias, the principles that stand up upon, and their progress in addressing potential bias within machine learning models, within their data sets, is something that we should regulate, I think.
Great. I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask each of you to answer it yes or no. So what you're saying is it's important to get AI right, eliminate bias to the best of your ability, and deploy this responsibly in order to maintain faith with your customers. Just go down the line. I just want everyone to hear that in no small part we're doing this because it's important to customers.
100%.
Sure.
So it's all about building trust with the customers. What I wanted to add, it is part of the data and transparency, but we need to also understand sometimes our customers themselves are biased, right? So for instance, we have a lot of customers who wants to search for home in safe places, but we know that this is correlated with bias. So how do we address this without them feeling frustrated, right? Or in grades, again, rating schools, etc. And the way also to address it is in the spirit of establishing trust and dialogue is this full circle, right? Of like enabling customer to give feedback in the UI, in other things, so that if some things goes wrong, we actually have the right processes internally to go and react to that thing. But 100%, we are here in a new adventure with AI, very much like we secured the way we drive the car after we had horses. It's the same thing here happening, where we have to understand what's the seatbelt and all of that science.
Great, thank you. Alon?
Just wanted to add, we spoke about the risks of bias and how we must ensure that our AI methodologies eliminate or reduce bias, and that's super important. I also want to speak about the flip side of that, which is the promise of AI to reduce bias that already exists inherently in the system. One area where we see this is in lending. Small businesses apply for loans a lot. Small businesses need cash. If you ask small businesses what is the biggest challenge facing them, they're always strapped for cash. QB Capital, one of our products, is offering loans to small businesses, and we do this at scale because we have over 10 million small businesses that we serve. Those loans can be offered because we can use AI to predict risk and understand who we can offer the loans to. 60% of the businesses who receive a loan from QB Capital confirm that they could not have gotten this loan elsewhere. They tried and couldn't get it. So AI can reduce bias in society and in our economy if we use it responsibly.
That's a great point. Chris?
Yeah, I think, our students use Chegg because they have trust in us and the high quality of the answers. Anecdotally, we get questions from our students saying, I generated this answer with ChatGPT. Is it right? Right? And so they need to know that the thing they're learning is what they should be learning. And so we're focused on, keeping that trust and expanding that trust, and then helping our students learn in the way they want to learn as well.
Great. Nathan?
Yeah, I think one thing to add, the removing bias to your best possible level within the algorithm is spot on. Everybody has to do. They have to be transparent about how you develop it, et cetera. I think I would add what's called an explainability statement, and we published last year the first explainability statement in HR for AI. There's been others that have been done, but that, I think, takes it to the next level, which is, here is how we've developed the AI, here's how we've measured bias, here's how we've minimized bias and improved it, and here's how you can then do the same thing if you want or you so desire. And that gets into the trust in the, for the general populace or your buyers or whoever it might be. Those explainability statements get pretty detailed, but they're very valuable, and I would encourage more people to explore that.
Great. Masumi, anything to add? I want to make sure I give you a chance on this one too.
Sure. I mean, obviously, much like everyone's saying, we need to reduce the bias. But I do want to add, lastly, there is that AI is a tool. At the end of the day, it is a reflection of what we choose to do with it, as well as a reflection of who we are. And the real question comes down to whether or not we want to put the best foot forward of who we are utilizing these tools. And ultimately, Alon brings up the good point about helping reduce bias within ourselves. This is the key element. Any tool can be used for both good and ill, and it's really about who we are, who uses it.
Great, thank you. I'll give everyone a chance to answer this question. There's been an explosion of interest in Washington and the administration, on Capitol Hill, and in state legislatures all across the country about AI. And what is our AI policy going to look like? In your view, is the current regulatory landscape supportive of the evolution and adoption of AI in your industry? And let's start at this end of the table with Farah, and we'll just work our way down.
In my view, it is actually a great thing that we have the discussion that is opened like this, and we want to have these sort of policies and regulation to guide our work. So it takes a whole team. Now, obviously, we would like to have it a little bit more advanced stage so that we can unlock the innovation as well in a very much secure space early on. So hopefully we'll get to that point, but we welcome all of these efforts to push towards the regulation for more AI, for AI.
Katia?
We love regulation. I think regulation opens the doors for establishing the guidelines of how the business can be run, and so it's very helpful. Onfido being a UK-based company or headquartered in UK, so we certainly benefit from a slightly more advanced regulatory landscape within UK and within European Union, and we are part of EU AI Act, where we, together with policymakers, composing the set of rules that they're planning to establish across the technology vendors in the country. Definitely, absolutely love being a part of this discussion and here with the leaders of these companies and the policymakers and the Senate. It's very important to have this chat. It's very important to get on the same page about goods and bads of AI in this particular case. I don't think any of us should be scared of it anymore. It's out there. Now let's harness it. Let's benefit from it. Let's do it together, and let's make sure that, in our case again, that if we don't do it fast enough, the bad guys out there are already employing it to their full benefit. So let's catch on and get going.
Great. Masumi?
Yeah, I mean, regulation's absolutely necessary. The question that I really would love us to begin to move forward on is how do we enforce those regulations once we establish that? One of the big elements is really, it comes down to how do we encourage the best of us as well as reduce the worst of us? And both the regulation will give us the rules, but also that enforcement will ensure that we can make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Alon?
Yeah, I'll make a few points. One area in regulation that I think is helpful, a helpful way to think about it is to think about the outcomes we're looking to achieve, not about the ways to achieve them. Technology is moving so fast that if regulators try to say exactly how you go about doing something, it becomes irrelevant within months. However, specifying the outcomes, the what are the things, transparency, no bias, safety, security, accuracy, those things are important. And I'd encourage everyone to look up the NIST AI framework that was published. I think we think it's a very good one, a very good starting point. Another thing to think about is simplifying the landscape. So I'll give an example of privacy. Privacy is crucial, and it's fantastic to highlight it as a requirement. Right now, our small businesses need to wrestle with, I think, 13 different privacy laws in different states. Every small business operates across state lines. Everything is done online. Having a federal privacy law will just simplify that. So we think it's a great thing for our customers.
Great, Nathan.
Yeah, I would mimic that comment. We're for federal regulation and around AI. What we're seeing in the absence of it is state and local regulations coming up in our field, specifically New York City Law 144, for example. It's not an AI law, but it's a law that everybody's calling it an AI law, but it's really around automated employment decisions being used and regulating that. So what we're finding is our customers, ourselves, and other companies are having to comply with laws that are being created in every municipality, every state, every in every city that are coming. So we're all for federal regulation, properly designed federal regulation around, again, the end result is how you start to measure it, how you got there, et cetera, and documenting those methods to help protect people that are creating the AI for good versus the individuals that have malintent and not following proper channels and proper parameters and checks on their AI.
Great, Chris.
Yeah, I'll try not to repeat what everyone said. The way I think about it also is it's going to be different by sector, right? Different sectors are going to need different levels of regulation, and so some are more high risk, some perhaps are less, and there's also different use cases that should have different tiers of regulation. So there's, what's the next TikTok video I should watch, right? That's probably less risky than, should I get a loan, right? Or other use cases. So I think by mapping this out by sector and by tier, I think you can have different levels of regulation that can promote safety, but also continue to push forward on innovation, which I think we all agree want to keep pushing ahead on.
Great, thank you, Chris. I do just want to point out, please use TechNet as a resource. I want to personally recognize Megan Dorn on our team, who handles AI. She did a great job putting this event together today. But like I said, 100 companies, we want to talk with you about this, so never hesitate to reach out. Lightning round, super quick, short answer. Take out your crystal balls. What is the one big thing you want to see AI solve for good in the next 5 years? Chris?
Sure. I'll stay away from jetpacks and translating what my mother-in-law is telling me. But I want to focus on emotional support, right? What we learned in COVID is students are struggling. Like, they don't know how to cope, and they're a little further behind. And so just pushing ahead on emotional support, building something that people can talk to and can relate to and communicate with in a supportive and an empathetic way, I think is exactly what I want to see in the next 5 years.
Great. Nathan?
Yeah, I think I would focus on agriculture and healthcare and not really thinking about Western civilization, but really populations that don't have the benefit of the agriculture and healthcare that we do. In the end, if AI would be ubiquitous as our mobile phone, we'd be there, I think.
Alon?
I would think about small businesses. So other than going to visit their customers in a self-driving car, I would speak about their chances of surviving their first year, which today is, I think, only about a third of small businesses manage to go through the first year. We believe this number can be pushed way higher using technology, using AI. It's actually a stated company goal for us. So I would look to see this miracle happen in the next 5 years.
Great. Masumi?
Kind of falls under Chris's area, but train the trainer. One of the biggest problems in this country is we literally don't have enough teachers. More importantly, we don't have enough teachers who teach teachers, which is really a thing that everybody can actually learn if you're given enough time. I think AI can provide that support.
Great. Katia?
I wish I could say that in 5 years we will solve the fraud problem, but I think this will keep going on and we'll keep fighting and having jobs. So I'm going to go a different route. So 5 years from now, our population is probably going to be much higher. So I'm going to go the holistic route of hoping that AI can help us solve the resource distribution for the overgrown population, especially in the light of the climate change that we're experiencing.
Great. Farah.
Yeah, I'm one who follows AI all the time, so there's a lot of applications, agriculture, education, healthcare, and there's a lot of promises there just because of all the data and how we are able now to process them in a much more advanced way. But going back to the real estate, the question to the team here, how many of you have bought a house or is thinking about buying a house? Raise your hand. Keep it high, keep it high. Okay. How many of you, from those who are thinking or bought a house, think it's an easy process? Okay. So that's the problem here. And I do feel like we're going to have much more knowledge and education for the people who are outside some of these processes and make them more transparent.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. America can do this, and we look forward to working with all of you to make sure we win the next era of innovation with responsible AI. Thank you so much to our panel.